Okay guys, I know I've been complaining for ages about not having enough brightness to film in, but if the sun could just go behind a small cloud for like 15 minutes because it is super bright right now. Ideally, I should have sunglasses on, but that would look a little bit ridiculous. It's like literally as soon as the clocks went forward, it became summer. What? So today I am back with yet another book haul. There happens to be a lot of like children's and YA books in this one. And the first book I'm going to talk about is Cogheart by Peter Bunzel, and this is a children's book. I think I heard Mercedes from Mercy's Bookish Musings talking about this one quite a lot not too long ago. And I don't really know that much about it other than it has been described as like a Victorian steampunk children's book, and that sounds great. It is about a girl named Lily whose father is missing and her life is in mortal peril. Sometimes it is just really great to have a children's book to break up some heavier reading, particularly if you're quite often reading books in an academic kind of way or setting. And that's basically all I've done in March, is read books for university. So I think some good children's books are definitely needed. Next up, I want to talk about Paper Butterflies by Lisa Heathfield, and this has been described as an incredible but highly emotional book. I have heard so many people say brilliant things about it and how powerful it is and how they managed to fly through it in one sitting. This is about a girl named June who has a very difficult home life with her stepmother and stepsister. She is trapped like a butterfly in a net. But when she meets Blister, a boy in the woods, she sees a glimmer of hope that life can be better. She finds a belief that she can fly far, far away from home and gain freedom. As I mentioned, this is meant to be a really gripping but really emotional book. I really hope to get to it soon. Next up is another YA book which is meant to be likewise gripping but very emotional, and that is The Drowning of Arthur Braxton by Caroline Smales. This has been a book that has been on my radar for so long, even before I was on BookTube. It is described as an urban fairy tale, and it is about a boy named Arthur Braxton who runs away from school and hides out in an abandoned Edwardian building. Here he discovers a naked woman in the bath, and from this point on, nothing will ever be the same. This is about the pain and trauma of adolescence and how a first love can transform even the most unhappy of lives into something miraculous. This book has been described as a modern fairy tale, so I'm just gonna be all over that shit. Why did I make tea? It is way too hot for this. Next, I want to talk about When We Collided by Emery Lord, and this is another book that I've heard very good things about. I'm not really sure if it's something that I would be into. It does sound like a little bit like typical YA love story. I believe this is about two 17-year-olds named Jonah and Vivi, and the summer they share together that will change their lives forever. What drew me to this book was the representation of bipolar, so I think it's a really important book to read in terms of representation of that, but I'm also interested in seeing how the narration works when dealing with something like that. Let me know if you have read this one down below, because I really want to hear your thoughts on it. I'm a little bit on the fence about how soon I'm going to pick it up, but if you can convince me, I will pick it up soon. A lot of YA in this haul, as I mentioned, and the next book I'm going to talk about is London Belongs to Us by Sarah Manning. This is about another 17-year-old, this time a girl named Sunny. She is sent a picture of her boyfriend kissing another girl, and she knows that it's no longer time to be a pushover and she needs to act on this. What follows is a mad 12-hour dash around London. She starts at 8 PM in Crystal Palace and goes to Camden, Shoreditch, Soho, Kensington, Notting Hill, and ends up at 8 PM in Alexandra Palace. Along the way, she meets a whole host of eclectic characters. I love London so much. London is one of my favourite places in the whole world. I think I'm going to save this one to read next time I'm there. Next up is Our Endless Number Days by Claire Fuller. Peggy Hillcoat is 8 years old when her father takes her away from their London home and brings her to a cabin in the woods. He then tells her that the whole world and all of civilization has been destroyed, and they continue to live their lives in this hut. When Peggy finds a pair of old boots in the woods, she begins to search for their owner and unravel the circumstances and events that led her to being taken to this cabin. This isn't a spoiler, but Peggy does find her way back to civilization, and this book has a lot to do with the inaccuracies of memory as we try and piece together what really happened in the cabin and how she made her escape. I've actually already read this one, so if you're interested in hearing more of my thoughts on it, it will be coming up in my March wrap-up. I now have two books that I'm gonna kind of pair together, and they are Bridget Jones' The Edge of Reason and Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy. These are the second and third books in the Bridget Jones series. I absolutely fell in love with Bridget Jones back in maybe around September. I had the best time reading the first book. I haven't found many people who have read the second and third one though, so if you have, do let me know down below and tell me what you thought of them. If you somehow don't know anything about Bridget Jones, this is kind of like chick lit at its very best. Chick lit is great. I don't care what anyone says. Bridget Jones is just such a relatable narrator. She's just so relatable and so funny. Sometimes you just really want to read a book where you spend some time with a character or a narrator and you're just like, oh my god, this is so me. Oh my god, she is me. And there are definitely elements of that with Bridget Jones for me. So two comfort reads that I'm really looking forward to getting to. Finally, I have a few non-fiction books. This one doesn't need much description, but I do have a copy of Hidden Figures by Margot-lee. You probably have heard of this one in and around the booktube community, but also because of the recently released film. I say recently released, I think it's been out in the US for ages. And this is a story of three female black mathematicians who helped win the space race. The story of these three women has gone untold for far too long, and I am so pleased that it is getting the recognition that it deserves. I'm really looking forward to reading this book before I watch the film. The next book I want to talk about is Nasty Women, and this was put together by 404 Inc. and has a bunch of different contributors. I also actually believe this book was crowdfunded, which I think is really, really cool. This is just a collection of essays about what it is like to be a woman in the 21st century. It covers a range of different topics, from pregnancy and contraception, to what it's like to be the child of immigrants, to racial tensions in Trump's America, to Brexit, to sexual assault. I also believe this book is really intersectional and inclusive, so I hope what I've heard about it in that respect is true. I'm really, really looking forward to getting to this one. And in a similar vein, the last book I'm going to talk about today is Everyday Sexism by Laura Bates. And it may surprise you that I've never actually read Laura Bates' Everyday Sexism. Not cover to cover, at least. I have dipped in and out of it in the past, but I've never read the full thing. This is a really well-known book about sexism. Laura Bates is a UK-based feminist journalist, I want to say. An all-round just very good bean. Again, a collection of essays about what it is like to be a woman in the 21st century and the difficulties that arise because of sexism. I'm not sure if some of the ideas in this might be a bit, I don't want to say basic, maybe like familiar to me, because I am kind of clued up on sexism and patriarchy and those things. But I love Laura Bates' writing style nonetheless. I read Girl Up last year and I thought it was absolutely fantastic, even though a lot of the ideas in it were quite familiar to me. So I'm hoping the same will happen with this one. They're just the writing style and the comfort of being like, oh yes, it's a strong, powerful, intelligent woman writing this book will be enough to propel me through it despite that familiarity. Okay, so they are all the books that I'm going to talk about today. Do let me know down below if you have any thoughts on them, if your interest has been piqued by any of them. Have you read any of these before and would really recommend that I get to them soon? Let me know down below and I will talk to you guys in a few days.